Wonder Egg Priority is the gem of the winter 2021 anime season, combining dreams, friendship, overcoming trauma, and magical girls all wrapped up in an effortlessly beautiful art style. Welcome back to the Anime Tea, everyone. My name is Phoenix, and today we are going to use theory and context to break down 7 major symbols from the hit winter anime Wonder Egg Priority. Today we will be covering most of Season 1 of Wonder Egg Priority. At the time of recording this, only 9 episodes are out. Also, another huge warning that this show deals with themes of self-harm, sexual abuse, and almost everything in between. Please be wary of that as we continue on. Let's start off with the plot of Wonder Egg Priority really quick. We follow 4 girls, Ai, Neru, Rika, and Momoe, who are all fighting in this dream world where they have to save their friends who have committed suicide and bring them back to life. They have to help other girls who have committed suicide fight their traumas in these huge monster manifestations. Because as an anime that relies on showing rather than telling, there's a ton of important visual context that viewers might fail to catch up on in all of the magical madness, but that is incredibly important for understanding the themes of the story. So let's start off with the obvious, which is number 1, the egg. The eggs also represent the girls who are in the egg world that Ai and the others have to help save. Eggs also represent having something precious inside, trying to protect something within, but also the opposite, breaking out of one shell and being expressive, having the interior come out and become something new, like we see when a chick hatches from an egg. And we kind of see this process in Ai from the beginning. She is, covered in her hoodie, and then throughout the episodes, she takes her hoodie off more often. She's usually not wearing the hoodie. When we get to a more climactic scene, like in episode 6, when she leaves the house and is running through the rain, she isn't wearing her hoodie, which is rare for her character because every other time we've seen her leave the house, she's wearing her hoodie, which kind of acts as her egg, her protective shell. And to see her without it means she's slowly coming out of her shell. Moving on to number 2, which is colors. Color theory is a huge part in any animation, but in this one specifically, we focus on 2 main colors, which is yellow, like I'm wearing in honor of this video, and also a very dark blue. Blue and yellow individually mean different things. Blue is usually a more calm interior, reflective type of color that in this case also seems to represent a hidden side, especially since blue seems to be the dominant color in Ai's room, where she tends to spend most of her time. Also in her tent that goes over her bed, which she spends more time in, and then also in her blue blanket, which she wears when she's inside. So it's like layers upon layers of repressive, interior concepts, which again ties back to the egg. But let's go on to the yellow side, which is the opposite of blue in this case. It is the more expressive, bright, bold side. It's attractive, it draws attention, and it's very bright. And it tends to be the color that Ai sticks to when she's going into the outside world. Because Ai has heterochromia, one eye is yellow and one eye is blue. She tends to hide her blue side, which represents, her repressive side, which is the side that she is usually hiding within at home, and then shows her yellow side, which is the side that also she uses to represent herself when she's going into the outside world. Blue and yellow are complementary colors, and complementary colors just mean that they do a good job of highlighting one another. They complement one another, and they bring out each other's best sides. So in this case, the yellow, when Ai is going outside, really shows her blue hair. It contrasts well with it, and also kind of gives us a peek into her interior side, the side that she represses, but that she doesn't want to show. And the dark blue does the opposite with the yellow by, highlighting how bright it is in comparison to. It could also be seen as a distraction from the side that Ai wants to repress. Moving on to number 3, which is flowers. Flower language is huge in symbols in anime. We've seen it in lots of other series like Attack on Titan. Flower language in this show is pretty prominent, especially in the first few episodes. One of the first scenes that we see is of a white lily as Ai goes into the egg world for the first time. She's walking in her school, walks by a classroom, and bam, there's a huge white lily in the foreground, and her walking in the background, which I think just acted as foreshadowing for what the egg world is supposed to represent for them. A few scenes later in that same episode, we see a door surrounded by white lilies, and then when Ai walks through the door, she's taken to the rooftop where she sees her friend Koito as a statue. We learn that Koito committed suicide and that her death kind of haunts Ai, and Ai wants to know like what led her to make that decision. White lilies represent death and rebirth, and they're often used as flowers for funerals in Japan. They're also conversely used for flowers and weddings, just because the idea of rebirth and a new life and a new stage in life. The color white in flowers usually represents innocence, and flowers themselves represent femininity and womanhood, which the show is focusing a lot on specifically. Another major flower symbol in this show is the sunflower, and the sunflower we are first introduced to on Ai's hoodie, again playing into the concept of yellow and brightness and attractiveness. Sunflowers are known for confidence and energy and being energetic and things like that. Things that Ai tries to kind of show in her outside self, but is nothing like at all in her repressive self. And it's more interesting because she chose to wear that symbol herself. It kind of shows how she wants other people to perceive her. Moving on to number 4, which is the statues of the girls. Statues have been used to, honor and respect people, especially really important people in the past. And it makes sense in this case why they chose statues for the girls, because each of these characters, each of these girls are really, really important to our main characters and kind of represent them in this like huge way so as to kind of draw them back. Another interesting thing about these statues in particular is that they get warm, or they have characteristics of the girls as they were in real life. Rika holds Chiami's hand and she says that it's sweaty, like how it used to be when she would shake her hand every time at the fan meetings. And they also might be the representations of these girls as our main characters knew them. Specifically in Rika's case, Chiami is the same. She looks the same as when she met her at the fan meet and greets, and she doesn't look like or how she saw her when she had passed away. Every single statue has their face covered. I think the faces are covered because each of the girls kind of don't know what specifically led their friends to make the decisions that they did. There's like a level of distance between them, and that's seen in how like their faces are covered and that they can't see their faces. Before we move on to the next one, make sure to like this video if you are enjoying it so far. It lets me know what kind of content you guys like and if I should make more videos like this in the future. Let's move on to number 5, which is the weapons. Now the weapons in WEP, which is what we're gonna start calling it now because it's just easier to say WEP than Wonder Egg Priority every single time. But don't get it confused with another acronym that starts with a W and ends with a P. Keep it clean in the comments, please. Because this is a magical girl series, at least I believe it's a magical girl series, it has all of the main concepts of a magical girl series. The only transformation scene that we actually get is through the weapons. And I think that's because their transformation takes place throughout the show. Ai's character, her transformation kind of takes place through her transition from being a recluse to being more open. Conversely, the weapons have really cool transformation scenes. Each of the weapons has something to do with a specific character's trauma or something that was important to them. Things that not only weigh them down, but also remind them of their life and maybe not the best parts of their life. For example, with Rika, we get to see razors, and razors are a really big part of Rika's character because of her self-harming tendencies. For Momoe, it's an umbrella type thing with a really pointy edge. It's kind of like a lance with an umbrella. I think the lance part kind of represents like a very masculine type of weapon, which is, Momoe's main dilemma is that she looks more masculine, and that weighs on her because she doesn't want to be seen as a man. She wants to be seen as a girl. There's also Neru's transforming thing. The first time we see it, it's a gun. When we see her holding it at the end as a small item, it looks like a protractor. It makes sense for her character, who is super logical, is a genius, and runs a company that creates super logical geniuses. I brought all these up to talk about Ai's weapons specifically, which are different from all the other girls, which makes sense. She's the main character. They're usually going to focus on having a slightly different approach to and making her a little bit more special than the others. Anytime she meets with someone in the egg world, she's able to use some item that they give her to fight back against the monsters. The first time it was a pen from Kurumi in episode 1. In episode 2, there's a ribbon from the gymnast girl. There was a pen light when she was helping those 2 girls who, were obsessed with an idol. And there was a bracelet in the episode where she was helping the girl who could see things. And she could only see the monster when she held the bracelet. It's interesting how she uses these weapons and how only she seems to be the only one who can change weapons and use multiple weapons in the egg world. Number 6 is monsters. There are the Wonder Killers, who are the big bosses, the big boss battles of the show. They are the manifested trauma of each of the individual girls. But the Wonder Killers specifically, the main bosses, are really important because not only are they the manifested trauma and they're shown in their kind of character design, they're over-exaggerated and more, grueling and monster-ish because they are however the girls in the eggs perceive them to be. But they also have to be fought head on, which is the hardest part for anyone who's trying to overcome trauma. Fighting your traumas head on is like the hardest thing ever. It's much easier to try to ignore them or, run away from them or hide from them. And they come in a lot of different shapes and sizes and forms. We get one that's a hair monster. The monster is literally on someone's, is someone's hair. The last symbol that we're going to talk about is the art style and the animation, which many people have said is reminiscent of Naoko Yamada's kind of art direction. Naoko Yamada is a director for the studio Kyoto Animation. Naoko Yamada specifically uses on-flower language, like we talked about earlier, and we see that a lot in her other works like Liz and the Blue Bird, as well as A Silent Voice and Clannad, where they use flowers to help carry the emotional baggage of the show. And another main part that people seem to not talk about as much is the character animation, or the emphasis on small character animation details. A really important character animation scene that's very subtle is in episode 6 when Ai is running through the rain to go to the school to tell her teacher that she wants to go back to school. And she gets there and she tells him, and she pushes her hair out of the way. Her pushing her hair out of her eye, we can see her blue eye, her smile, the way that her hands move, all representative of her slowly getting out of that shell. In her battles, she's very straightforward, she's very blunt, but in real life, she's still kind of struggling to be more upfront about things. And we can see that in the subtlety of how she moves her hands and moves her hair out of her eyes. So yeah, shout out to Shin Wakabayashi and his doing just a great job of showing the subtle little details in each of the characters and how they react, especially in Ai, just seeing her kind of grow each episode and what it means for her specifically. There are so many more mysteries to explore in the series, especially as the show comes to a close with its 12-episode run. If you can't get enough of symbols in anime and you want a little bit more content, make sure to check out my other videos, 6 hidden symbols found in Attack on Titan, or if you want more content that is related to WEP or Wonder Egg Priority, let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!